It was almost midnight when the rain began to fall, sharp and cold, pelting against the cracked streets of the small Texas town. The neon light of a rundown diner flickered weakly against the gloom. Inside, a young woman sat in the corner booth, her hands wrapped around a chipped mug of coffee that had long gone cold. Her name was Amara Johnson, a 23-year-old nursing student barely scraping by, her wallet thinner than the paper napkin she nervously tore into pieces. Amara had just finished her second shift of the day, the soles of her shoes worn through, her uniform damp from the rain. She looked outside at the near-empty parking lot, thinking of how she only had $8 left until her next paycheck. $8! Enough for maybe a sandwich and the bus fare home. She sighed, rubbing her tired eyes, whispering a quiet prayer that things would get better someday. That's when she saw him. A massive figure stumbled toward the diner, soaked to the bone. He was a man in his late 50s, gray beard tangled, tattoos crawling up his arms and neck. His leather vest was torn, the patch on the back just visible under the streetlight. Hell's Angels. His face was pale, his breath shallow, and his steps uneven. The moment he pushed open the door, every head inside turned. The few customers at the counter froze. Even the waitress hesitated. Amara could tell he wasn't just tired. He was hurt. The man collapsed near the counter, clutching his side. Blood mixed with rainwater trickled down his arm. A couple of people backed away, murmuring, "Don't get involved. That's biker trouble." But Amara didn't move away. She jumped up from her seat, rushing to him before anyone else dared. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked, kneeling beside him. He grunted, his voice gravelly. "Just need a minute. Bike crashed a few miles back. Didn't mean to." He winced, losing his balance. Amara pulled off her thin jacket and pressed it to his side to slow the bleeding. "You're losing blood. We need to get you to a hospital." He shook his head weakly. "No hospitals. Please. Cops will be waiting. I just need food. And a place to rest." Amara hesitated. Everything in her told her to call 911, but there was something in his eyes, something human beneath the pain and roughness. She remembered the times she had been ignored, the way people looked at her uniform and saw only a poor girl from the wrong side of town. So she made a choice. She waved to the waitress. "Get me a sandwich and coffee. And a first aid kit if you've got one." The waitress frowned. "Honey, you sure about that? He doesn't look safe?" "I'm sure," Amara said quietly. The total came to $8, every last dollar she had. As the waitress walked away, Amara tore her last napkin and cleaned his wound as best she could. The man tried to protest, mumbling that he didn't deserve the help, but she ignored him. "You're human," she said simply. "That's enough reason." When the food arrived, she helped him eat, small bites between coughs. After a while, some color returned to his face. He looked up at her with watery eyes. "Name's Rick," he said hoarsely. "Didn't think angels still existed outside of patches." Amara smiled softly. "Guess you found one." He chuckled weakly, his rough laugh echoing through the empty diner. "You don't know what you just did, girl. But thank you." She didn't think much of it then. She just told him to rest until morning, leaving him with her jacket to keep warm. She didn't know if he'd make it, or if she'd ever see him again. But helping him felt right, even if it cost her everything. The next morning, he was gone. So was her jacket. The waitress rolled her eyes and said, "Told you, honey. Bikers don't say thank you." Amara just smiled sadly. "That's okay. I didn't do it for that." She walked home in the morning light, her stomach empty, but her heart strangely full. The following day, the diner was packed again, the same chatter, the same clinking of mugs. Amara was back on her shift, trying to ignore the ache in her legs, when a low rumble began to shake the street outside. The sound grew louder and louder until the entire diner trembled. Engines. Dozens of them. The waitress peered through the blinds, her jaw dropping. "What in the world?" Amara turned and froze. At least 100 bikers were pulling up outside, their chrome glinting under the Texas sun. Black leather, skull patches, roaring engines. The Hells Angels had returned. The sight made every customer in the diner panic. A few scrambled for the back door, and someone muttered, "We're about to be robbed." But Amara didn't move. Her breath caught as the bikers dismounted in perfect unison, the ground vibrating beneath their boots. Then the crowd parted, and out from the middle stepped Rick, clean-shaven, wearing a new leather vest, standing tall and strong like a completely different man. He pushed open the diner door, his boots thudding against the floor. The room went silent. "Amara Johnson?" he called out. The sound of her name from his mouth sent a chill down her spine. She stepped forward hesitantly. "Yes?" Rick's weathered face broke into a smile. "You spent your last $8 feeding a stranger. You patched me up when everyone else walked away. I owed you a debt. And angels." He glanced back at his crew. "Don't forget debts." He turned to the window, motioning with his hand. The bikers outside revved their engines, and two of them wheeled something forward. A motorcycle, gleaming, brand new, black and silver with chrome details that sparkled like glass. But it wasn't just a bike. Behind it was a check, taped to the seat, for $50,000. Amara's hand flew to her mouth. I can't take that." Rick smiled. "You can, and you will. Every dime of this comes from the brothers. We passed the hat, and the club matched it. You helped a man no one else would touch. Now you'll finish that nursing degree. No more double shifts." Amara's eyes welled with tears. "I didn't do it for money," she whispered. "I know," Rick said gently. "That's why you deserve it." He turned to his crew. "Boys, show her how the angels say thank you." In an instant, every single biker raised their hands in salute. 100 voices roared, "For Amara!" and the engines thundered in unison, shaking the ground so hard it felt like the earth itself was applauding her. The townspeople stood at a distance, wide-eyed. The waitress stepped beside Amara, whispering, "Girl, what did you do to these men?" Amara wiped her tears, still trembling. "I just gave what I had." Rick stepped closer, his voice low. "You gave me more than that, sweetheart. You reminded an old sinner that good people still exist." He handed her an envelope. Inside was not just the check, but also a handwritten letter. It said, "For every life you'll save as a nurse, may this remind you that kindness never dies. It just rides on." Amara couldn't speak. Her heart felt too full, her hands shaking as she looked at the roaring line of bikers who had come for her, for the girl who once had only $8. Rick placed a hand on her shoulder. "If you ever need us, Amara, just call the angels. You're one of us now." And with that, he turned back toward his bike. The gang mounted up, the engines igniting once more. One by one, they peeled away from the diner, their jackets flashing the red and white wings as they rode into the horizon. When the last of them disappeared, the street fell silent again. Amara stood there, tears streaming down her face, the check still in her hand. She had gone from having nothing to having more than she could ever imagine. Not because she asked for it, but because she chose to help when no one else would. That night, as she walked home beneath the sunset, she looked up at the sky and whispered softly, "Thank you." Not just to Rick, not even to the bikers, but to life itself, for proving that kindness, no matter how small, always finds its way back. And somewhere, far down the open road, the sound of engines echoed faintly, a promise that she'd never be alone again.